Hello, hello, hello. It's Knits for Sanity and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you stick around for a little bit. And if you are a returning visitor, I'm so happy to have you back. So what is a WIP and chat? If you are new and don't know, WIP stands for Work in Progress. So you may grab whatever project you're currently working on, or perhaps it's a chore you need to do, you're taking a walk, maybe you're on a daily commute, and I will spend about an hour or so chatting with you. So WIP and chat. Today, my work in progress is actually geared toward my middle daughter's birthday, which is this upcoming Saturday, the 27th. And she has always been a fan of Hello Kitty and all of those Sanrio characters. And one of her favorites is this guy, the dog. I think his name is Cinnamon Roll. Something like that. Anyway, I found this cute little kit. It was from a budget store, but I honestly cannot remember which one. Now, they did tell me that it was official licensed Sanrio product, but you know, after receiving it, I'm skeptical. Let's just put it that way. I'm a little bit skeptical. Like I've said before, you know, you try your best, you do what you can do, but sometimes mistakes are going to happen. Regardless, it's really cute, and I'm still going to try and finish this up for her this week. So first, I guess we can do a little bit of like an unboxing, and we will look at this together. So this comes with, it's actually several different pieces. So here's our main piece with our character here, and it looks like a cute little like cherry cake type thing. But then there's some additionals here too. So here we have like a mini cinnamon roll, and then this is like his little teddy bear friend or something, and a little gift box. I mean, I thought it looked very birthday and birthday like. And then here is an actual stand. So when you're done, it does tell you 013. So this is supposed to go in this piece down here. Maybe it will. It would be sad if this did not actually work. Boy. I don't know that this is going to fit in there. Sorry, I know I keep hitting you. Okay, I'm not confident that this is actually even going to fit in there. I wonder if these little pieces do. Yeah, the little ones do. Or at least one little one does. Okay, so one little one does. Boy. All right, well, I think we're still going to complete it because part of the problem also could be these all have plastic coatings over the top of them, of course, to seal in the glue for where you put your drills. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to complete them. I can also sand them down a little bit to try and get them to fit in there if I have to, but hopefully it's going to work out okay. Otherwise, these pieces look really cute. I do like that it is a wood piece. It's not acrylic, just a little bit different. And we'll start with the largest piece first, I think, although I will probably continue to just do one color at a time, which is how I typically do smaller projects like this. And what I mean by that is, this is really different too. So this is our little tiny toolkit. Now, I have never seen a drill tray like this. And all of my diamond painting, which technically started in 2019, and then I took a long hiatus. The wax is good too. This pen is even shorter than most. This is like a petite size pen. And I've never seen a tray like this in all of my years of diamond painting. Isn't that something? I mean, that's really different. It's kind of cute. So it's like a mini set. You have this shorter than normal pen. You have a much, versus this is what you normally get in a kit. Interesting. Just very, very different. Very interesting. Anyway, Boy, that's different. So what I do when I work on these smaller kits typically, and I've gone over this before in previous videos, is I will do like all of my ones first. And typically I will use like a good diamond painting tray, if you will. So this one comes from Bella Art de Nicole. They make some of my favorite diamond painting trays. I will use this when I'm actually working that color, but then I will put all of the extra drills into one of these very basic trays, and I'll keep this out until I'm done with my project. And then that way, if I come across a color that I missed, I can very easily go back and find that color back and just apply it. So I got a good stack of extra little trays here, and I do keep a good handful of these on hand for this purpose exactly. Otherwise, I do donate them to my local elementary school, and she uses them as teeny tiny little paint trays. Or perhaps she's come up with some other creative uses for them by now. I don't know, honestly. I should talk to her and ask her about it. And then the drills in here, they are all just normal acrylic drills. There are no special drills in here. There are no crystals, but they are really fun, bright colors. So that made me happy. So let's go ahead. We're going to try and get this started and going. And I will try and catch you up a little bit on what's been going on with life. I think I'm just going to open one white at a time. There's 2 packages of it here, but we're just going to do one at a time. That's all that's really going to fit in this drill tray. But yeah, so there's been a lot going on. If you follow me on Instagram, which is the other social media that I am on quite regularly, you will know that it has been busy. It is, of course, we are in the heart of wrestling season right now, which, if you're not aware, is a big deal in this house. I have one daughter in particular, this same daughter who I'm doing this for, whose birthday is this coming weekend. She loves wrestling. And by wrestling, I don't mean, WWE. I mean actual, what she will call real wrestling. So she's the manager of her high school wrestling team. She adores, oh man, this is not ripping off well. So this plastic has already ripped. Woo. Okay. She adores the University of Michigan wrestling team. What I'm doing now, in case you are not aware, is I will put a number or letter that is not reversible, so that when and if I have to put this back over this, which this is, it's now been ripped. I think if I do need to recover this, I may actually pull out some cover sheets to do it. But still, I put down a letter or number that's not reversible. So if I try and put it down backward, I will see immediately that, oh, that is not the right side. So that's what I'm doing with that. But anyway, yes. So wrestling is a really big, hairy deal around here. And we actually just completed her Christmas gift weekend this past weekend, which was a trip out to see the University of Michigan wrestle both Friday night and yesterday, Sunday afternoon. Plus she got a 2-night hotel stay in the town. We live over, so anywhere from about 2 3/4 hours away is what we'll say. So, a little under 3 hours. Kind of depends on weather and traffic, but a little under 3 hours is pretty typical for what it takes us to get out there. And with them having duels both Friday night and Sunday afternoon, I thought it might be kind of fun to go ahead and get a hotel room for her because she loves staying in hotels. I don't know why, but she does. And so we were able to do that. And then Saturday was a down day. She had homework to do. I had some work to do. Then I took her to a bookstore. She also loves books. Really, all my kids love books, some more than others. My oldest is probably the least into books out of all of my kids, which as a parent is almost kind of sad because both their dad and I are really, really big readers. And so to have one kid who, she reads and she enjoys reading, but I don't She doesn't read for pleasure. That's really hard as a parent, especially a parent with both of us were English majors, English language and literature majors to be specific. So it's almost a little bit heartbreaking, but she reads, she's phenomenal at language arts still. But middle daughter is our biggest reader, hands down, and always has been. She is my one kid that we will have reading emergencies. Like last year, I took her to the Big Ten Wrestling Championship, which was also held at University of Michigan last year, which is why we went, because it was somewhat local for the first time in, a decade plus. And we had a reading emergency while we were out there. She had not packed enough books to read. And for her, that truly is kind of a crisis. She uses reading as a way to help regulate herself and keep her from getting too anxious and stressed out. So we had to make a quick stop. We just went to, for us, it's a Meijer. Some of you may have Meijers located by where you are, but it's like a superstore type place. It's, grocery store with all other departments included. We just went to a Meijer that particular time so she could pick out an emergency book to read for the rest of the weekend. So Saturday I took her to a bookstore. Ironically, because of where we were located, this huge university city, one of the best universities in the country. There are a lot of different bookstores there. But she wanted to go and check out the one bookstore that she's already familiar with the name of. So in Grand Rapids, there is a bookstore called Chore Books and Music, and they have an Ann Arbor branch as well. So we went to the Ann Arbor branch of the same bookstore that she's kind of familiar with. That is not local to where we live, but it's probably 45 minutes away. And during the summer, we'll go down there a couple of times. They have a great used book section. The one that's closer to us has a whole cafe, so you can get something to drink. You can get a really nice little sandwich. The one in Ann Arbor was just books. There was no kind of cafe. I don't even think there was music. I mean, the whole music part now is pretty much extinct. In its heyday, Schuler had books and music and video, but now with how things are all digital, both the music and the video aspects are pretty much gone. I feel like there's still maybe a little tiny bit of it left by us, but don't quote me on that. It's not a thing anymore. We get everything digital now. But back in the day, 15 years ago, when I was in the earliest days of parenting, when we could not get internet where we live at all in any shape or form. We have internet now, but it's very, very slow internet. But at least thanks to advances with everything, it's good enough for us. Like, we're generally able to stream video off from, Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that. But back then, there was nothing, and we didn't have TV access, so I would go to Schuler and buy used DVDs. a lot of used DVDs. And that was the only way that we had to watch anything on TV. But now, of course, that's all kind of just died out. But Saturday we went there. She picked out a book. I picked out a book. I picked out a very shocking book for me. It is a book by a Buddhist philosopher, Pema Chodron or something. I'm not entirely sure how to say her new name. I can tell you the name she was born with, but I think that would be considered disrespectful because she is now a monk and fully invested into that whole lifestyle. But anyway, I was a philosophy major. It was one of my 3 degrees. Absolutely useless areas of study in college. And it looked really, really good. And I am not even I'm not big into meditation. Meditating tends to actually kind of stress me out, which I read a really good article about that at one time as to why meditation sometimes does not work for people. And that made total sense to me when I read it. I'm like, oh yes, this describes me perfectly. This is why this doesn't work. I have found other ways and other really forms of meditation that do seem to work, but not your standard type of meditation, which obviously when you're talking about a Buddhist philosophy, the understanding is that there's going to be meditation involved. But the book just seemed really, really good. It's really focusing on learning how to make friends with all of yourself. I feel very, very trapped in life. I feel very much like a failure in life. I mean, these are things that I've spoken about before at length with all of you. I'm not going to get into it again, but it's all about learning how we need to accept and befriend those parts of ourselves that we don't like, instead of trying to banish them from us, because inherently these aspects that are maybe so-called more negative aspects of our personalities, they are still part of our personalities. And so when you are trying to, just get rid of these different parts, you will inadvertently also end up throwing out the good parts about yourself too, because they're all so intertwined. So it's about learning how to make friends with the parts of yourself and the parts of your life that you are not content with, that you do struggle with. And then by making friends with those aspects, then you learn how to tone them down or kind of reverse the outcomes of those aspects. So if you tend to be an angry person, which I'm using an example. I'm not really an angry person, but this is probably, thinking about it, probably about the best way to try and explain this a little bit. But if you tend to really struggle with anger, by trying to suddenly never ever be angry, just get rid of anger. Well, anger stems from passion. And there's nothing wrong with being really passionate about things. Passion is an instigator for development, for change, for great ideas, for productivity. And so, instead you need to learn how to make friends with the anger, figure out where does that anger come from, and recognize that the driving force behind that is you're really, really passionate. So how can we accept that we do struggle with anger? And then instead of taking that anger out in very negative ways, how can we use that for constructive purposes, if that makes sense? That was an awful lot of talk about this book that I'm only like 5 lectures into. But anyway, I don't know. I'm surprised at how much I am enjoying it. I think in part, the reason why I'm liking it so much is because it's a very calming book. Just reading it is very, very calming. It is based off from a series of lectures I think she gave in the very late 80s. It's called The Wisdom of No Escape, if you're curious. But it's just the act of reading it is relaxing, peaceful. So that was the book I chose. And if you don't know, obviously, as you can probably tell, I am a big reader, and it's not uncommon for me to talk about what I'm reading in my WIP chats. Sometimes it's more entertaining than others. Probably the most entertaining was when I was talking about the whole book that I read about rabies, which remains probably one of my top 40 books that I've read over the last decade. It might even be in like my top 20 books that I've ever read over the last decade. It was just so good. Who would have known? I mean, I certainly never thought in a million years that this whole book about rabies was going to be so awesome, but it was really, really good. And along that note, please, please, please vaccinate your pets against rabies. Okay. It is the one sure way to help prevent rabies. And yes, rabies is still very, very much a threat. And as more people refuse to vaccinate their animals, it becomes an increasingly huge threat. So I'm going to get on my soapbox a minute and I'm going to tell you, look, rabies is real. It is an absolutely horrible, horrible way to die. I mean, like, I knew it was bad, but guys, it's bad. It's far worse than what you could ever imagine. It's several days of pure hell. And there's really nothing that can be done. There's even little that can be done to alleviate symptoms until you die. Just vaccinate your animals. So, I'm done with my little soapbox now. My beverage is LaCroix. If you know me, I love my LaCroix, which is just, sparkling water, flavored sparkling water. But now I'm starting to think maybe I need to drink less LaCroix because I think carbonated beverages can be bladder irritants. And I'm kind of getting sick of peeing at night. I mean, some of the having to use the bathroom at night is just age. I mean, let's face it, I'm getting older. But I'm kind of sick of the regularity with which I have to use the bathroom every night. Just saying. And why am I even bringing this up? Well, it's kind of in part because it goes back to the weekend I had with my daughter. So after we went to the bookstore, I took her to a mall, which I know most of you listening to this, you're like, so it's a mall. They're kind of like outdated. Who even goes to a mall anymore? But for my children, their experience with malls is very, very minimal. With where we live, we don't live anywhere near a mall. And this actually was a pretty nice mall. It had, I guess some pretty nice looking stores. For me, it felt like a really bad deja vu trip back in time, at least 20 years. But for my daughter, it was fascinating. She loved it. And I got to tell you, I felt so old watching my teenage daughter peruse through all these clothes. She was, sadly for her, on a very strict, absolutely no purchasing budget. But, we're still gonna peruse. We're still gonna shop, right? And watching her go through all these clothes, which looked like they were straight out of the 90s, straight from my middle school, high school years already. So that was like really creepy. And then seeing all this stuff and thinking, oh my, I used to be able to fit into these clothes. And now I look at them and there's no way. Now I'm just big and lumpy and I got saggy boobs. and yet for my daughter, she can wear any of this stuff and it's going to look great on her. And to realize that, wow, at one point in my life, that was me. And that was a very long, long, long time ago. Or to see things that she thinks are really cute. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, been there, done that. I don't really think it looks that great. Or my favorite was we went to this store that first I found the store really confusing. I don't want to say the name of the store, but if you're familiar with stores, you'll probably know this store, maybe. But it was kind of confusing because they had all of these Christian themed things, like signs with Bible verses on it. And there were, water bottles that had, this girl loves Jesus, stuff like that on it, which is fine. I mean, I have no problem with that. Like that's not an issue. What was the funny part to me though, is in the same store, which is very, very girly and it's like meant to be like super uplifting and they're playing like happy, like, I don't know if it was necessarily strictly Christian music, but it was definitely very like uplifting, kind of poppy type music. And then I turn and there's this table with these vintage sweatshirts that have like Def Leppard and Nirvana. And it just felt like a very weird juxtaposition between the two. And then to know that all of these teenage girls are shopping here and they're looking at these sweatshirts like, oh, this Nirvana sweatshirt is so cute. I don't know. It was interesting. It was definitely an interesting experience. And I realized that I felt very, very old. I mean, there was nothing that made me feel more middle-aged than that experience, except having to get up in the middle of the night to pee. So that's where that all like comes back around, is that getting up in the middle of the night issue. And doing some research, obviously age is just a huge, huge factor. And potentially there's really not much that I can do about it. You know, I might just have to get up every night at 2:30 in the morning and pee like that. And that's just how it's going to be. But there are some things that I know can be bladder irritants. And I know that carbonated beverages can be one of them. And that's about the only thing. Well, no, then there's also coffee, except that I have been pretty good about watching when I stop taking my coffee in. But coffee can definitely also be a bladder irritant too. But less so as long as you consume your coffee before, what is it? They say like 8 hours before you go to bed, I think is what it was. I just know my cutoff time for when I have to be done drinking coffee. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes my husband and I will go out for a coffee beverage in the evening. And then I can't say that I've noticed any difference with my urinary frequency that night or the night after. This is way, way too much information for all of you. I don't know. You know, this is what happens. I even wrote down a list of things that I was going to talk about, and then I just go off on these tangents. So, yeah. But other irritants obviously include things like wine. Well, I'm not a huge wine drinker. I mean, I will drink wine, but it averages out to really one, maybe 2 servings a week. You know, I've had the same bottle of wine sitting here for like a couple of years now, which, based on the kind of wine that it is, it probably actually is not good anymore. Yes, wine does go bad. So I'm not a huge wine drinker. So it's like, so that's not going to be one of them. But then the one thing that I do tend to consume pretty much every day is a carbonated beverage, and it is generally in the form of LaCroix. So I'm considering maybe trying to cut back. But I feel like of all the vices, really, the carbonated water with no sodium, no sweetener, no calories, that's what I have to cut out? I mean, how sad does life have to become? Like, I don't know. So I'm just in the thinking about it stages. I may be keeping my LaCroix. So yeah, let's see. And then the weekend, so Friday night's duel was against Penn State, which, as I know, most of you are not into wrestling, but for those of you who have been listening for a while, you kind of are becoming a lot more familiar with the sport, which I consider kind of a good thing, because it really is a really awesome sport. And trust me, I understand. You're probably thinking, no, I don't think so. Not at all. I was just like you. Believe it or not, I was just like you. I really didn't think anything of wrestling either until my daughter started doing this. And now the last 10 years of my life, it's been wrestling. And it's a fantastic sport. And I feel like really every kid should at least try wrestling for a little period of time. It's character building. It's good physical development. It's the strength involved for wrestling cannot be understated, or overstated. I mean, it is truly phenomenal. It is a really good image of likeness to the struggles that you can encounter in real life and the need to continue fighting, the persistence that is required to face challenges. It's a great sport. Anyway, Friday night was against Penn State, and Penn State is I mean, hands down, the runaway best college wrestling program in the country. We can talk about NIL, name, image, likeness, and how NIL can help contribute to that and kind of make that situation more difficult. But I don't want to get into the whole politics of that, especially because I'm not entirely sure what the answer to that situation could be, because I do agree student athletes do deserve compensation. To me, it seems absolutely, so I guess I am talking about it. To me, it seems absolutely bizarre that you can work and work for any kind of an organization and then bring them in millions upon millions of dollars. Think college football here. Bring in buku bucks to the school. And at the end of the day, most of the time, these kids are still actually paying the organization. Few kids walk away with a complete and total full ride scholarship that covers tuition, room and board, books, plus a living stipend. That is almost non-existent. There are kids who get it, but you are the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, and it's only from certain universities. So it just seems ludicrous to me that we have these major, huge organizations that profit and can profit large off from these students. So I think that is, I definitely see the problems there. But right now you have NIL, name, image, likeness, so they are allowed to receive compensation for that, but it needs to be through sources outside of the university. Except the university still can get involved and create, or not directly create, but they can, so like the University of Michigan, they have I think it's called the Champion Circle, which is their not University of Michigan endorsed, but it's like a separate donation funding program. So Michigan alumni, Michigan fans, a family of people who go or have been to the school. Anybody can donate funds to this Champion Circle or Championship Circle, something like that. And even, I think more pertinent beyond that is, as a donor, you can even specify which program you want that money to go to. And obviously there's ways that you can donate and just have it go into a general fund. But this is on a smaller scale, just looking at individual donors being able to do that. And obviously the larger your school, the larger a fan base, if you will, that are able to offer donations. And now student athletes can be essentially bribed about where to go and which programs to be in because of the compensation that they may be able to receive. And it's a messy situation. And like I said, I feel like the students deserve to be paid, but yet I feel like there needs to be some kind of additional guidelines in place. Because right now you do have schools that have these runaway programs. Penn State is known for having the best wrestling program, and not by just a little bit. We're talking runaway best wrestling program in the country right now. So it Friday night's duel was good, and it was really, really busy. Everyone wanted to go. Everyone wanted to see Penn State. But for those that were in the know, my daughter and I knew Michigan was going to lose this duel, and we were just hoping to see a couple of maybe one really good upset. And there was one. There was a phenomenal upset at the 133 weight class. The University of Michigan kid ended up pinning the Penn State kid in overtime. And to add to that, this University of Michigan student, his name is Dylan Regason, he actually was supposed to be redshirted this year, but then for various reasons, he had to come out of redshirting and go back into competition. And so he went from being redshirted, not expecting to compete at all this year for the team, to bam, suddenly now he's ranked number 3 in the country. He just beat this Penn State kid in a really exciting duel. So that was really awesome to watch, really, really awesome. But at the end of the day, we knew that Michigan was going to lose, and for the most part, the wrestling was going to be relatively one-sided. And it was, but it was good. Yesterday's duel, however, was against Rutgers. Well, Rutgers and Michigan have far more equal teams. It's a bit more of an even playing field, if you will. And so we were anticipating that yesterday was actually going to be the better wrestling. And really it was. Michigan won. And I will be honest, I was a little surprised. Michigan came out slightly more dominant than what I anticipated, which is not a bad thing when, that's your school of choice. But what made yesterday extra special is, in addition to this whole weekend getaway, I was able to get mat side seats for us for yesterday's duel. Now, we weren't like officially mat. I mean, we were mat side, but there were 2 rows of folding chairs and we were in the second row. But still, we were right down there with the teams and everything. And of course, my daughter loved it, just loved it. And then because it was just against Rutgers, and yesterday was also the big Lions game. If you follow the NFL, the Lions have gone from phases of being like the worst NFL team in history to this year, we are 1 game away from making it to the Super Bowl, which you don't understand what that means to a native Michigander. It's huge. But that game was also going on yesterday. So between people feeling like, it's just Rutgers, and, the Lions game, the crowd was pretty small yesterday. And even those mat side seats, there were a lot of empty seats. But for my daughter, who does not like crowds, she doesn't like to feel crowded, it was ideal. She was able to get up and she stood behind the chairs when she wanted to stand for a while. She could stand and no one was yelling at her that she had to sit down because she wasn't blocking anyone's view when she was doing it. It was really nice. And then when her favorite wrestler went up to wrestle, there was 1 open seat in the row in front of us. And I told her, you just go right on up there and take that seat and you watch him up close. So she did. And he actually had a great bout. He won, but even for him, he was, pretty aggressive that bout. So it was a higher scoring bout than what we normally see from him. His name's Will Luan. He did fantastic. And then when it was all done, and of course Michigan won, and we're packing up, and all of a sudden I hear, hey Veda, I didn't know you were going to be down here today. And it was Will Luan. And so that was really, really special. Veda loved that. Veda doesn't get starstruck for the most part. She's this very practical, blunt kid. It's part of being neurodivergent, where it's just people are people. So she's met some really big names, if you will, in the wrestling scene, but for her, they're just people. It's kind of hard. It's hard to describe. But there is the closest she comes to being starstruck is with Will Luan. I'm not sure why. I mean, he's a sweet kid, or young man, I really should say. He seems really nice. And I'm not entirely sure what exactly it is about him that makes him her favorite. I have guesses. I think some of it is he tends to remain pretty level-headed when he wrestles. I think Veda appreciates that. He's definitely a more defensive wrestler, but with surprises. Like, things seem to be just going real steady, and then all of a sudden he'll come out with something, and it's like this great surprise, which kind of matches with my daughter's personality. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I have theories as to why I think he's her favorite. And so that was just really cool and special for her yesterday is, he saw her and came over after the bout. And, I even said, well, you got to get back to the team. And he's like, well, I will. But, I wanted to come and say hello. Oh, how sweet is that? So that she just beamed. Oh, my word. She was just beaming. So that was really awesome. And I was really happy for her. And it was just a really neat experience. So that was my weekend. Otherwise, we've come off from some really crappy weather. My kids are at school today, but over the last 2 weeks, they had 4 days of school out of 10 possible. So 2 weeks ago, there were snow days Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Last week, it was snow days Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So there was a full week where they were home. By last week, Wednesday, everyone was losing their mind. But don't get me wrong. I would much rather schools play it safe. Particularly, we live, like I've said, in the middle of nowhere. The roads are dangerous, and I can't imagine being a bus driver, and it is your job, it is your responsibility to make sure that you get all of these children safely to and from school on this huge vehicle. The pressure involved with that. I love bus drivers. So if you are a school bus driver, thank you. You do not get the praise you deserve. You are amazing. Thank your bus driver if you have children in school. What they do is truly incredible. And then, of course, you're dealing with young drivers. You have a number of teenage drivers, especially in a school district like ours, where, the school district, as I've said many times before, it's almost 200 square miles. And so you have a lot of kids that are driving, and we're in a low income area. So you have a lot of kids driving really crappy cars. So young drivers in bad vehicles, driving, not just a couple of miles, but sometimes 20 miles to school. Yeah, I would rather we just shut down school. I mean, nobody, and especially the teachers, want to make up days at the end of the year. However, if it's going to save a life, I'm all for it. Awesome. I can put up with my kids at home. It gets a little harried. Everyone gets a little, we kind of come after each other after a while, but I would much rather do that than risk life and limb. It's just not worth it for me. But weather was good today. I am a little nervous about tomorrow. I looked, we're under another winter weather advisory. So I don't know what tomorrow's gonna do. They're talking like, I don't know, another 6 inches of snow or something between 1 a.m. and 4 p.m. We'll wait and see. But see, now we've used all of our snow, like allotted snow days for the year, which we could use 3 more and get them forgiven by the state legislators, which is pretty much a guaranteed. So we kind of have 3 more days available, but officially, technically, we've now used all of our snow days. We have 1 extra day that is built into the year that is a day off from school, but becomes a day of school should we need it. So, for example, and like it's one that we have to use. So let's say we have to take 2 more snow days this year. We have to use that 1 built-in day. And then the state legislatures will forgive the other day. They won't just forgive 2 days. They'll say, no, you have another day built in that is a day off, but it's known to be a make-up snow day if you need it. So you have to use that day. So, 1 more day, bam, now kids definitely have school that day. But if it's just 1 more day, then that saves us from having to go later into the summer, or I guess technically spring. I mean, school gets out late spring. So we'll just see what happens. This week it was supposed to warm up quite a bit, but then looking at the temperature, it's now not supposed to warm up as much as what they were originally predicting. And the reason, I want it to be cold, but not too cold, but I don't want this. So this is the current situation that looks like could be happening this week. During the day, it will get potentially warm enough that everything melts. And then overnight, everything freezes. Well, we have a lot of snow out there right now. A lot of snow. Not as much as what we've had in years past. We've had some years where we have feet upon feet of snow on the ground. We're not quite there yet, but we have 18 to 24 inches of snow. So, some of that starts to melt. And then it gets cold enough overnight where it all freezes. And if you're familiar with what happens, then you know that you wake up the next morning and now your roads are covered in ice. And until the sun comes up, even though we don't really ever see the sun, it'll still be completely cloud covered, but still the sun will come up, things warm up, even when you can't see the sun. Then things start to melt again. But same till the children start school well before the crack of dawn, the roads will be all icy. So sometimes you can get away with doing a 2-hour delay. Sometimes that's just not going to be long enough, again, because the kids all start school well before the crack of dawn. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So we'll just see. But at least they are all there today. And of course, it's January, which is testing season. The amount of testing these kids do. I've talked about it before. I hate all the testing. I especially despise mid-year testing, this stuff in January. Really hate mid-year testing. I don't really see the point. I don't see any huge value to it. It's like beginning of the year, okay, fine, you can kind of get an idea of retention levels. End of year, okay, fine, you can kind of understand how much did they actually gain for what they were supposed to over the course of this past year. But mid-year, you're not going to make a sudden change in course halfway through the year. And you already have end-of-year results coming. So even thinking, but then we can use that to alter how we do things in the coming year, just doesn't make sense. Anyway, so now they have all of these tests that they have to make up, which of course stresses my kids out so bad, especially my numbers 1 and 2. My number 1, however, doesn't have testing because she's now in high school. So she has other testing, but she does not have this mid-year test that my other 3 still do. So daughter number 2 was not happy that this morning she's going to have to go to school and take stupid standardized tests. I'm sorry, dear. She's also not a great test taker. She does really well with ELA sections, but the math sections are not very reflective of her abilities. She gets A- in math. So clearly, like, she's understanding the concepts in class fine. And actually, her test scores are higher than, like, her homework scores because she tends to sometimes not do her homework, which bit her in the butt. And she kind of realized that because, again, her letter grade went down by half a grade because she hadn't done all of her homework. So I pointed that out to her, like, your grade would have been half the letter grade higher if you'd done your homework. And she's like, yeah, I know. But her test average is usually very, very good, like a 92 or 93%. So clearly she does fine with math, but for whatever reason, when it comes to those standardized tests, she freaks out with the math section. I think math is more difficult for her, so she psychs herself out too much. I don't know. Anyway, that's what she would have done this morning, and I'm sure she's just glad at least that section is done. So let's see, what else? Oh, my car is now officially dead. I don't know what we're going to do. I have no idea. If you've been following along, you know that my car needs a new transmission. My car, however, we still owe quite a bit of money on it. Why do we still owe quite a bit of money on it? Because when we bought this car a few years ago, it was supposed to be a really good car. It was only, 3 years old. It's like the newest car that we had ever owned. We used some really inheritance money. It was my mother-in-law's insurance to help make the down payment for this vehicle. It was supposed to be a really good car, one where it was going to be fine to finance it for several years. And then no, it wasn't. We needed a new transmission. And last week it did finally decide that was the end. We really do need a new transmission. And our options, we don't really have options. Everyone who's somebody would say, no, it is really, really stupid to buy a new transmission for a car that has 140,000 miles on it. I would agree with you, but I don't know what other option is because we still owe on this vehicle. And like we can't buy another car for the cost of a new transmission. But then I know us, I know how things work, and we'll get a new transmission, which will be thousands upon thousands of dollars, and then something else, the car will die another way. And then what? Then what? I don't know. It's just, I know us, I know our luck. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm angry, I'm frustrated. And of course, we require like the most expensive possible vehicle that you can get because we need third row seating because we have 4 children. We also really do need a car with all-wheel drive. We need to have at least one vehicle that is able to get to the main road during bad weather or during mud season in the spring. When for the couple of years where we didn't, we did get stuck at home. We had vehicles stuck in mud, vehicles stuck on ice, vehicles stuck in snow. We couldn't leave. We couldn't go anywhere for a couple of days. We'd have to have someone pull us out. So yeah, we require third row seating and all-wheel drive, which, like I said, yes, that's literally like the most expensive type of vehicle on the market. And we thought we had a good one, that we should have had no trouble being able to finish financing and then turn around and sell it in combination with a down payment to then get a new vehicle. But of course, that's not how it works because that's not us, right? Like we never do things that way. Oh, no. If something's going to go wrong, it will go wrong for us. That's just a guaranteed. For example, this new job that I've had since last summer that I've also talked about. So the good news is it's slowly sort of picking up. I do actually have some people on my caseload. It's not a lot of people, and I'm losing one person, which is fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. It's just, if you know, it's been a very slow, lengthy process that I had to put in quite a bit of time and money up front. Well, in December, I should have finally received my first very small paycheck. It's not really a paycheck because it's contract work and I get paid. It's Medicaid money anyway. But I should have gotten my first paycheck last month. Except I didn't. And I double checked when that payment was supposed to hit my bank account. And it hadn't. So it's the week before Christmas. And of course, no one really wants to help you the week before Christmas. And I'm dealing with this financial institution who is just making the assumption that it's my fault. It's something that I did. So I have to fix it on my end. And I'm thinking, no. And I double check. No, I have done everything right. It's something on their end. Well, yes, it was. It was something on their end. I did finally receive my payment. But the one thing that I was always told about this job is, we're so sorry. Well, the person who kind of recruited me, if you will, I'm so sorry that it has turned out this way. I feel terrible. This is not at all what I anticipated. This is not what I thought it would be like for you. But at least you will get paid. Like that is the one guarantee, you will get paid. I didn't get paid. Speed up to January. I was supposed to get paid again on Thursday. Guess what? There was no money in my account again. So I'm going through the same whole thing again about what is going on. And once again, I know that it's nothing that I did. I submitted everything correctly. So this is just the kind of life that we have. Hence the reason why I got this book at the bookstore Saturday. That's why, because yes, anything that could go wrong will go wrong. For me especially, but for us, for my family, it's just a guaranteed. And so yes, there you go. Speaking of money, this is like a really bad transition, but I've mentioned that I have diamond paintings that I am selling. Well, I did finally list stuff on, what is it, Mercari? Is that what it's called, guys? I think it's Mercari. I did finally put stuff up in there, and I have been having some success in downsizing my diamond painting stash. that is not a good drill. I will, if I can figure out how to do it, I will link to that in my notes. So you can go check it out yourself if there's something that you want. My prices, I have worked really hard to try and make sure that even with the shipping, which I have to use USPS because of where I live, I don't live anywhere near a UPS or a FedEx location. So it has to be USPS, which often does work out to be the more expensive. But anyway, I've worked really hard to try and make sure that if the kit is still available somewhere else, that even with the shipping cost and what I'm asking for it, it's still less expensive than buying it new somewhere else. And my stuff is it's brand new. I'm selling all brand new stuff. So you can go check that out if you want. Maybe there's something in there that you have had your eye on for a while. It's mostly Diamond Art Club. I do have a few other on there too. I have some really awesome diamond dots. There's a couple that I have now sold that I really did not want to sell, but I'm desperate, and I have too many, so really it's okay. There's one diamond dot that I'm really debating about unlisting, but I'm not going to because there was a Diamond Art Club one that I had unlisted for a while because I'm like, I really don't want to get rid of this one. I love this one. So I like deactivated it, and then, reason got the better of me. I'm like, no, go ahead, activate it. You need to sell this. You need to downsize. You need the money. So I reactivated it and it sold that night. So, maybe actually I should then deactivate the one Diamond Dots one and then let it sit for a couple days and then reactivate it. Maybe that will make it sell right away. I don't know. But yeah, if you're interested, you can go check those out. Kind of along that similar line, if you haven't in a while, definitely read through the notes for this episode, because I do have a number of discount codes. Now, I am not an affiliate with anyone. These are just discount codes that are just strictly for you to save some money on some different websites. I don't receive any kind of compensation. There are no kickbacks. It's just a way that you can save some extra money. So definitely check that out as well, if you haven't in a while, because there are one or two new ones that have been added just in the last couple of months. I think that's like everything like business related, if you will, channel related. Let's see what else is going on. My oldest still has what we're calling her unboyfriend. I mean, really, he is just a good friend, but I think it's kind of cute. They totally act like a couple, even if they're not really officially a couple. That's why we call him the unboyfriend in the house. He's a nice cat. I enjoy him quite a bit. Daughter number 3. It's sometimes hard to talk about daughter number 3 just because in so many ways there's never any real drama going on in her life, but in a good way. Like, she's happy. She has a great group of friends. She has really awesome grades. Oh, actually, there is one minor little thing. So she is, I call her my math genius. She's taking geometry as a very young 7th grader. Like, she was 11 basically all of the first semester. She didn't turn 12 till November. Well, she had an A in geometry all semester. I mean, it was a low A, but she had an A. And then she took the final exam. And this is where I struggle with final exams at the high school level, is when that final exam will affect your final grade. And in her case, it did. She went from having an A to an A minus, which, I mean, no, it's not a big deal. It's an A minus. It's still a phenomenal grade, especially for being barely 12 years old and taking geometry. It's an amazing grade. But it's more, I was looking at her percent average and just feeling kind of frustrated. That's my dog. Obviously, that's my dog. No, that's one of my cats barking in the background. There is a chance that the mail guy is here picking up one of those Macari sales that I made. But it just, you know, when you see, and she's so close to having been able to round that up to an A when she'd been earning an A all semester long. I don't know. That kind of bothers me. It makes me feel kind of bad for her. Honestly, though, again, because she's just a laid back, good kid. She's cool with it. She's kind of like, whatever. I think because of my dog here, this might actually be a really good place for me to just finish up because he desperately wants to go check out what's going on. So I think I will finish everything up right here. Thank you so much for joining me and my tangents. I do appreciate it. Check out the notes below. Like I said, different discount codes are available down there, as well as I will try and figure out how to link to my Mercari page if you're interested in that. But in the meantime, I hope that you are having a really, really good day. I hope you have a great week. And please just practice kindness. You never know what someone's situation is right now in their life. So just extend that little bit of extra kindness and patience. It will go a very long way. And I will see you real soon.